New threats, meanwhile, from North Korea. The regime of Kim Jong-un making fresh threats this morning to launch a nuclear strike, quote, at the heart of the U.S. with our powerful nuclear hammer, unquote, should the U.S. attempt a regime change in Pyongyang. This coming as the Wall Street Journal is reporting this morning that China is boosting defenses along its 880-mile border with the North and realigning forces in the region to prepare for a potential crisis along that border, including the possibility of a U.S. military strike. Joining me right now to weigh in is Admiral James Stavridis. He is Dean of the Fletcher School at Tufts University, former Supreme Allied Commander at NATO. He's also author of the new book, Sea Power, The History and Geopolitics of the World's Oceans. Admiral Stavridis, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
You bet, Maria.
First, let me get your reaction to this latest development along North Korea's border.
Very concerning. China is obviously hedging, Maria. And we need to think of North Korea kind of like two streams crossing. One is nuclear weapons themselves, and the other is the ability to deliver them at range with intercontinental ballistic missiles. It's like in Ghostbusters, you don't want those streams to cross. They have not crossed yet. He does not have the ability to launch that weapon to the United States yet. But that will happen in the next 18 to 24 months. There'll be a big decision. The Trump administration is going to have to make it as to whether we do a military strike preemptively, or we work with China to try and solve it diplomatically, or we live with it. We don't know how it's going to come out. Neither does China. They are hedging against uncertainty.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, there was some commentary yesterday that a strike, that the conversation within North Korea is that a strike could reach Hawaii or even Alaska in the U.S. Sooner rather than later. Do you agree with that? Is that the kind of power we're talking about?
They have the ability to launch a ballistic missile that possibly could reach as far as parts of Alaska or Hawaii. They do not have the ability to affix a nuclear weapon to it yet. That is probably 18 to 20 months away.
So you've written about what options the United States has in terms of confronting the North Korean threat. You say that the worst option would be striking first. Tell us about that, explain that, and what should the U.S. be doing?
The worst option would be a preemptive strike, Maria, because probably 10 million people would get killed in the northern part of South Korea. Seoul, the capital, just below the border. The North Koreans would be able to see the preparations for that military strike. They could use artillery, conventional weapons, or their nuclear weapons in close, and we would lose millions of people, including tens of thousands of Americans. So that's a pretty bad option. A better option, what we should do, is put pressure on China to put pressure on North Korea. The way we do that is impose secondary sanctions, which are Chinese firms doing business with North Korea. That will get China's attention over time. All roads to Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, lead through Beijing, ultimately, if you want to solve this diplomatically.
Yeah, speaking of sanctions, I want to get your take on the Russia sanctions bill that is up for signing today. What is your take on this bill and the way that it does handicap the president in terms of what he can do going forward without Congress's okay?
I strongly support the bill in this particular instance.
Right.
Normally, you want the president to have a lot of executive authority, be able to handle foreign policy. But I think in this case, the actions of Vladimir Putin are so egregious, both the cyber attacks on the United States, the support for Assad, a war criminal dictator in Syria, the annexation of Crimea, invasion of Ukraine. His actions are so egregious, they demand strong sanctions. I think having the Congress weigh in is actually going to help the president as he seeks to find better accommodations with Russia. We need to recognize Vladimir Putin is no friend to the United States.
Do you think the president will sign it?
I do. I think he's already signaled that over the last couple of days.
Yeah.
I think there may be some back and forth, Maria, but my guess is in the end he will sign it.
Admiral, let me ask you, I want to turn to the terrorism threat at sea. You write in an op-ed recently, quote, a nautical terrorist attack would likely involve one of two scenarios. The first is an attack on a passenger ship. A second scenario is the infliction of environmental or economic damage on a port or coast. Is the U.S. adequately prepared for this kind of threat, Admiral?
We are more prepared for the first one. Our special forces teams train to go to a cruise liner to recover it after a terrorist attack. We have a very strong in-place system of intelligence that watches for this. The second one, the use of a massive explosion to take out a tanker close into a U.S. port, we are not as well prepared for. It's often said, Maria, that the failure of 9/11 was not a failure of intelligence, but a failure of imagination. We need to be thinking through these scenarios and preparing for them.
All right, we'll be watching that. Congrats on the book, Admiral. Good to see you. Thanks so much, sir.
Great to see you, Maria.
And
thanks.
to you. Admiral James Stavridis joining us.